All right, greetings everyone. I will call this meeting to order. Let's establish we have a quorum, please, beginning with a roll call vote. Juan Carlos?
Aye.
Christopher?
Here.
Meredith? Here. John?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
I am here as well. We do have a quorum. Juan Carlos, has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes.
Thank you. To help ensure that we're centering our board work around our shared values and serving our students, we begin each of our board meetings by reading our district's equity framework and the Ho-Chunk land acknowledgement, which can be found at the top of your agenda. And I am up in the rotation this evening, so I will take the turn to read. Our VASD educational equity framework reads, in the Verona area school district, our mission is that each student will acquire the knowledge and skills necessary to achieve their personal goals, thrive in a diverse global society, and lead a healthy, self-fulfilling life. To meet this mission, the Verona Area School District will ensure that every individual has access to the educational, social, and emotional support they need to feel valued and affirmed in their unique identities and experiences. We acknowledge that inequities and power dynamics exist in our system, such that some individuals, on the basis of their identities, face barriers to accessing the opportunities they need to experience success. In acknowledgement of such, the Verona Area School District is committed to disrupting these systems of inequity. And our Ho-Chunk land acknowledgement reads, there are currently 12 tribal nations who call Wisconsin home, with the Ho-Chunk Nation being the primary group living around Madison. No matter where you are in the state, you are on the ancestral land of a tribal nation. As we begin our meeting, we honor the land upon which we stand. All right, moving ahead to adoption of our agenda. It would take any changes, suggestions, or motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Christopher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. All those in favor of approving tonight's agenda signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Yay, it's recognition time. I might make a recognition song as I'm just going to do that for no reason. So excited to have some esteemed colleagues and guests to honor this evening. So I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Clarity, as we recognize some of our staff.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here today. And we're always like to start these meetings off with a really solid recognition of the outstanding staff that we have here in Verona Area School District. And today we're excited to acknowledge the members of the aquatic team, including our aquatics director, Deb Bossingham. So this is going to be a two-part because there's two awards that go along here. So first, we're going to recognize Deb Bossingham by herself, which I know she hates that, but that's what makes it fun. Who was awarded the Outstanding Aquatic Professional of the Year by the Wisconsin Park and Recreational Association. With this award, Deb was recognized for her outstanding contributions to the field and her tenure as an aquatic professional. In addition, the full aquatics department received the Wisconsin Parks and Recreation Association Silver Star Award in the special events category for the first annual Verona Area Kids Triathlon. Silver Star Awards winners are selected for the purpose of the event participation, operational efficiency, creativity and innovation, and successful marketing. So congratulations again to Deb, our Assistant Director of Aquatics, Leah Wykander, Staff and Wellness Community Programming Coordinator, Sydney Peach, and Facilities and Events Scheduling Coordinator, Janine Ennis, on the highly successful Kids Triathlon and this award. So congratulations to this amazing team. Deb, will you speak on behalf of the team?
Okay. I am good at talking, but probably not about that. Thank you. I didn't know there was a speech involved. Okay, good.
I'm completely messing with you.
Thank you, Deb, and the team. I mean, we just hear often all the programs, all the things that really thrive out of our aquatic center is just such a gift to the community, such a return on investment for community members that help support the construction of the pool. Thank you so much for what you do and all the offerings that you all bring. And this triathlon, what a great first annual. We get to say first definitively that there will be a second. Can you all remind me again how many kids participated in the first annual?
300.
It's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, what a great opportunity with facilities that we have to bring littles into the triathlon world. So thank you. Thanks for being here so we can celebrate and acknowledge your work. We're appreciative.
Absolutely. Chad, you want to say anything about for your team?
Well, Dr. C, like I said to you earlier, in particular, hiring Deb, who was a veteran, longtime tenured aquatics director in Oregon. You on occasion worry about folks like me who are long in the tooth, coming for 5 or 6 years and resting on their laurels. The opposite happened. So when we hired her, there isn't a time I meet with Deb that there's not a new innovative idea that she's interested in bringing our community and more people into our amazing facilities. Same is true for Sydney and Janine, who, there was one thing Deb, and I hope you don't kill me for this, was not super wild about initially was the kids' triathlon, because she knew it almost killed her when she did it in Oregon. But then we have Janine and Sydney who are like, we got this, help us with the pool part, and we're gonna run with it. And that's where you guys ended up getting recognized. So it was a ton of work to get sponsors and all the logistics, and they killed it. So super lucky to work with you.
Yay. Thank you again for being here so we can honor all that you do. You are clearly more than welcome to stay for as much of the meeting as you like. And we also recognize all the work that you do. So yeah, thank you so much.
You also get free to leave without any judgment.
Yeah. And then we'll turn it right back over to you, Dr. Clarity, for our superintendent's report.
Absolutely. So for superintendent's report today, we're going to, I'm going to co-present with Marcy and have Amy available also for additional questions if necessary to go over the student and families experiences survey results. We are in year 2 of our new survey model. So we have some comparative data to be able to look at and understand and speak to. As we always do, we'll always also come back with the staff results as that survey is still open to the public right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to switch over to Canva on my own. Oh, I have to go on
Thank
first.
you for your input.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Stop. Stop.
All right. Ready? So as always, we open up with the rationale behind our communication survey is in alignment with our priority areas of strategic framework. We allow that to guide our focus and how we have formed the questions in collaboration with some of our advisories and other caregivers that really helped us morph the questions into a space that allow for genuine feedback and really be able to get to the heart of our work here in the Verona School District. Additionally, we're committed to continuous improvement. So we take this feedback as a way of understanding the areas where we are strong and also the opportunities where we still look to grow. Really excited that our response rates have continued to be very high. For our students, we had 3,303. That's a 75% response rate for our student population. And our parents and guardians, that number doubled this year from 2025 to 2026. some of the things that we want to, which was a 105% increase between 2025 and 2026. We also, as we look at that participation rates and through a demographic lens, we had a 20.
About 100. About 100. Oh, I'm sorry, I should let you finish your question.
No, for Spanish speaking number?
Yeah, it was about 100 Spanish-speaking families.
Additional.
Yes.
All right, as we prepare for the feedback sessions, here's the way that it'll be presented. It'll open with the report to the Board of Education today. Then I will complete a district-wide video with the results that we share with all families and staff. It'll also be included in the family newsletter available on the VSD website and go out through social media. And each school will then share a video, results video of their individual spaces as well. So there'll be multiple methods in which this information is shared back to our families and our students. All right, let's get into the meat of it. So as you compare 2025 to 2026, what was unique is that the areas that are 5 areas that were bright spots in 2025 were also the bright spots for 2026. But what was good about that is we also had increases in each of those areas. We know it's hard to have significant percentage moves when the percentages are already really high, but it was just very interesting being able to look at those areas that we, weren't necessarily stagnant, and that we still were able to shine in a lot of areas when it came to the learning is important in our school. Families being treated with respect at my school was high. I have opportunities for success. I believe my principal is a good leader, and I believe my teachers challenged me to think. All statistically were our 5 highest, and for 25 and for 2026. So with anything, we also have areas for growth. In this area, we had 4 areas that we have 5 areas that we want to look at, and 4 areas identified were areas of improvement, all increased between 2025 and 26. I like going to school each day. I feel students are nice to show respect. I believe the bathrooms are clean and well maintained. I think my school is clean, and I feel that there's healthy food choices for me at lunch. All were areas where our percentages were lower, and we want to continue. And we did show increases in those spaces. We continue to work with our students and to better understand some of the areas where we are looking for growth, and we're still getting good feedback in those areas. When we talk, we also, one of the things that we're learning more about is that, in terms of cleanliness, even though they marked the second one, I think my school is clean, they are still referencing the restrooms and like student use of restrooms and the cleanliness of students in those spaces. So those two are really working hand in hand. One area that we also want to clarify that stood out last year that we did a lot of additional work around was bus and bus safety. And some of the data last year and this year initially showed that that was still an area for growth. What we learned is that when students were completing the survey, if they did not ride the bus, it was being marked as a negative or no. And so it was throwing that data system off. So that's why it's actually no longer on this space, because it's significant. Hopefully it's getting better as well. But it significantly increased the percentage that did not find that as a concern, because we removed the students that weren't riding the bus at all, and it gave us better data.
Were those the 5 lowest that you've highlighted on slide 7?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, we'd like to go into the greatest improvements statistically between last year and this year. The biggest improvement was between 66% to 75% for I feel safe at my school. Some of the areas that really stood out whereas the high school, which had a 17% increase, I feel safe at school. I think we also, in talking to some of the students, believe this aligns with our implementation of our SRO and Officer So really have been having a good partnership and relationship with students, being present in the hallways, and also understanding that he is there as a support for safety and has done a good job of not making sure that we're not policing in those spaces. So those things are working hand in hand as well. We're also an area on the academic side where we were looking for significant growth and saw some, whereas I received feedback from my teachers about my academic progress, which moved from 68 to 74. Students feeling nice or show respect was still low, did increase by 7%. And I believe that my school develops abilities to empathize with others also increased by around 6% as well.
So when you talk about having school-specific videos and information coming, these might be areas that get more disaggregated by site too, because this is right, the full collective.
Correct, this is all of it.
And remind me again, the students, is it 3 through 12 that took the survey, right? We don't do the K-1-2s? Okay, thank you for that reminder.
All right. So improvement actions. Some of the things that we want to do is, that we like to do is break it down and understand, like you just said, understand it by school and school spaces to better have understanding, are there leadership moves needed in different spaces as compared to others. Allow time for our leaders to dig into this data themselves and work with their individual staffs, work with their student organizations that they've, like their advisories that they have created to plan their leadership moves. And then this data is used to inform the continuous improvement plan as they build their goals for next year as well, to allow for just deeper implementation, deeper thought of how they will strategize to move forward. All right, so I'm gonna pause before I move over to Marcy to specifically stay in the realm of students before we move into families for additional questions. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great information. I love seeing the improvement and also the emphasis on areas for growth. Question in regards to demographic data and just going further into that information. And as we center our equity framework, this is really an opportunity to see if there's anything that's highlighted from our demographic data, if there are barriers to specific demographic groups. I think specifically for some communities, uniformed officer in a building wouldn't purvey safety, and so that's a good way for us to make sure that we're meeting that promise we've made to the community around safety and for everyone in our community. So that would be one thing I'd be really interested to hear about. Also thinking about immigrant refugee students who may not feel safe to come to school, not necessarily a part of our school environment or community, but rather outside agencies looking at them and being targeted, ICE in particular. So those things I would love if we had that information and could see that, drill that down. And I don't know if we do track LGBTQ or gender diverse students as well. Maybe if we don't do that now, we think about that in the future as well, because this is another demographic that I think is important if we're thinking about safety and access, et cetera.
Thank you.
We do that. We use 2 different platforms. So Marcy's going to talk about the family survey results, which we use the Studer platform for the student platform, exactly what you're talking about, Christopher. We use NextPath so we can actually drill down to the student level. So when schools are setting their continuous improvement goals, they can do that by focus group for any of these questions.
Great.
So they can see the question. Many of them have chosen the question, I feel I belong at school, and then they disaggregate them by focus groups to think through what are those specific actions, because as you're naming, the aggregate can show one thing, but as you dig deeper, you might see other trends. So we did specifically use a different platform for the students so we could get to that level of analysis and follow-through.
And I appreciate this. This is the perfect tool in regards to finding that data to see where those options are. Thank you.
All right, on to our family results.
Oh, I'm sorry, one last question. Yeah. Will this also be available in Spanish and other languages as we have those videos that are presented?
We did last year. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
And I thought of a question too, as you're talking about that, because I know we talk about this with like staff surveys and feedback. Is it still anonymous though for families and students? Or is it not, is your comment to say that we can drill down and know who the individual is that submitted the specific survey?
For families and for staff, it's anonymous, and we use
Okay,
the student platform for that. For our students, we use our internal platform so that we can disaggregate to that level. But really, there's a small number of people that have access to individual responses.
Okay.
For students.
Okay, so students can be somewhat rest assured that it feels anonymous for most individuals in the district that are using and getting the feedback.
Yes. That we're looking at big picture themes.
Yeah.
Yeah, not individual student results.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. For our parents and families, again, want to extend thanks for the 105% increase in respondents. We're really happy about that. The more we can hear from more people, the better off we are. So wanting to look at our bright spots, these were also the same last year as this year, and we saw increases in the percentage of respondents who agreed or strongly agreed with these statements. So we have folks believing that teachers, staff, and administrators demonstrate genuine care for their child, and that was brought up over and over again. People talking about the expertise and the commitment and the care that teachers and staff have for their children, that they know their children, that they see them for who they are and support their learning. Lots of teachers and principals and school staff mentioned by name, so that was great to see. We had increases in I am treated with respect at this school. I believe my child has the necessary classroom supplies, and I believe the school is clean and well maintained. For our areas for growth, they were also the same, similar to the student survey. The same questions are having the fewest percentage of respondents agreeing or strongly agreeing with the response, and we saw improvement. And as we look through these, I'd like to pause just for a moment and notice that 11% increase in parents receiving feedback from school staff on how well their child is doing, and a 12% increase in families receiving positive communication about their family, about their students. So knowing that, yes, these are still areas for improvement, but really seeing big gains. And part of that is baked into the standards-based teaching and learning approach as we're doing professional learning. Part of that is helping students set goals, helping students understand what they're learning, and giving them feedback on their academic progress. And for the family survey, we have an opportunity for open-ended responses, and we get hundreds of those. And we're always excited to see those. Again, seeing a lot of people mentioned by name for the positive contributions to the school district. And then we sort those into themes. And what is working well, what came up with our families was, again, the caring, committed, and skilled staff, strong communication with families, safe, welcoming, and respectful school environments, high quality teaching and learning, and academic supports, interventions, and differentiation. We noted some specific examples here around communication because it also emerged as an area of growth, which we'll talk about on our next slide. So we thought it was interesting that it's landing as what's working well and landing as an area for growth. So we wanted to provide some specific examples here, notably newsletters, people talking about grading rubrics, flyers about activities and events, communication from teachers, and weekly recaps in some of the platforms that we use, including Seesaw and Canvas and PowerSchool. And then we also wanted to just highlight some things that came up as things that are working well consistently. They weren't top 5 by volume, but still we thought these were worth mentioning, particularly multilingual communication and inclusivity. With the increase in Spanish-speaking families who responded to the survey, it was encouraging to see that they were feeling the sense of having access to multilingual materials and information and being included. All right, what could be improved? We've got communication, student behavior, discipline, advanced learning, grading, feedback, and transparency about the progress, and support for students with special needs. Again, around communication, we wanted to dig a little deeper to see what specifically families were talking about. And what we noticed was a continued desire for more information about what students are learning and how they're doing. And then we noticed a large variation in some people saying, I hear from the teacher all the time, to I never hear from the teachers, or I hear from the teacher very little. So that could explain, why this may have landed in both places. And then again, some areas of what could be improved that were consistently mentioned but weren't in the top 5, focused around technology, access to extracurriculars, arts and enrichment, transportation, facilities, and some concerns around wellness as well. And for our continued improvement actions, again, these are things that were mentioned last year, so we've known there were areas of concern and have taken actions to address those things. And we're happy that we're seeing progress, but we'll continue to push this work forward. We have developed an identification process and implemented it for math, grades 2 through 8 for advanced learning, developed an advanced learning family advisory, and then have worked to get information out there about advanced learning opportunities and the way that we approach advanced learning through board presentations, our webpage. Amy was thrilled to be a guest on the podcast so that we could get information out to the community. And we have increased feedback for students and parents on academic progress. And for our student behavior and supports, we continue to do professional learning around restorative practices and social and emotional learning. That is the summary of information that we have for you today, and would love to address any questions.
Another question. So part of the feedback in regards to family, just the anecdotal, do we have specifics that parents are also providing within those details? These are big bucket pieces, but do they have specific items? I'm thinking especially for, as we look at our equity framework, are they calling out specific things that might be helpful for us to consider?
Yeah, they do call out specific things, and that's one of the things that when we share out with schools, we're sharing all that information with them,
Great.
And they can disaggregate the information down by their school. So really look at some of the specifics that people mentioned.
I think I heard you mention staff took the survey too. Where are their results? Are they in with the family results, or are there separate staff questions?
So that presentation, that's a separate presentation that we do, because that survey is still open right now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and for the many staff watching online right now, we only have 384 responses, so we'd love to hear from you. You have until the 13th.
Yes.
You're gonna get 2 extra.
That's right. Yeah.
What was the survey window for families and students? When was that open?
It was a 2-week window in December.
Students finish December.
Is it roughly the same time frame as last year?
December 1st to the 19th.
Any ideas what led to the over double the respondents among families? What efforts did we put into?
To replicate.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier today, and one of the things we did was in all of our information, pushing the survey out, we said we want to double last year. And then I was thinking, this just came to mind, that, people saw what we did with the information last year, right? They saw the videos, everyone got that, whether or not they completed the survey. So we're hoping that people develop an awareness of the survey, and then sort of trust in, they're actually going to do something with this data. We're going to find out what people were saying, and then they're going to take action.
It was, I think, a little bit heavier, a lot heavier push in all of our social media sites, and pushing, everything that we sent out had a link attached to it that made it as successful as possible. The outreach with our family community engagement, making sure that demographically we were able to hit some spaces that we weren't necessarily always hitting occurred as well.
So schools have set goals around this too, and I think many last year were disappointed in the response rate. Because they're trying to make action steps as a result, and they realize we're making action steps for a very small percent of our families. We need more representation, so I think they're really helpful in that push as well.
That reputation of actually using data, though, I think is impactful, like you said, Marcy, that families realize this is being used. It isn't a checkbox to make us all feel better that we sent a survey, that it is impacting decisions at the site level and the district level. And I'm always curious, I think you've said this well, Carlos, like who's missing? You know, do people tend to lean into surveys when they have positive things to share? Do people tend to lean in when they're super grouchy? Are we like where, you know, I'm just curious from the emotional standpoint of like, who might we be hearing from and who are we not hearing from? So I'm not sure how any of those conversations have gone or the curiosity around that, but it's always what voices did we not hear from and perhaps why, which I know you all pondered.
And it's great to see the Spanish-speaking community taking a higher percentage of the survey results. That's great. But also within that engagement framework is always, what are the barriers to having access and why are we not seeing some communities participating? So, you know, great job with that.
I love having the comparison of the 2 years. So I'm glad that we're getting some, you know, longitudinal data. One thing that I'm interested in, and I know each school will have their own data to share, and I don't think at the board level having each school data would help move the needle a little bit more, you know, my understanding. But I would be curious to know if there are any areas that there were distinct differences between elementary, high school. You know, I like going to school each day. Curious. I mean, that seems like one that's a pretty benign. I'm not surprised that's where we landed. But I feel like students show respect to each other. Is that something that is consistent across each grade level? Are there any areas where even for parents, they get more outrage? Is that something that is concentrated more at a certain grade level, or is that a consistent data point that transcends whether it's, you know, elementary, you know, middle or high school? And I'm also curious how kids think the schools are not that clean, but parents are like super duper clean. So
That's been a puzzling one.
just hope our kids are not talking about our own houses when they're out and about.
So sort of as far as climate survey by level, we do see elementary students typically have more positive data results in some categories over others. This is what we see as students matriculate through the system. We can get this data for students by grade level too, so it's interesting to see some different grade level trends. And each school knows their own data, but then they also get the district-wide average, so they can see for each question, where do we align here? How do we compare, and where can we learn from others in our district who might be really excelling in that specific area? So that's been helpful for our leaders to begin to talk about and learn from each other.
And I know this will be data that kind of comes back to us throughout some, you know, monitoring reports, but just as if there's this would be something that I would be interested in seeing in the future, anything where there's a discrepancy at a certain age group, like what stands out? Because I think that, I think this is a great overall district picture. But I do think that there may be times where different grade bands are weighing some of the results higher or lower. And that would be something that I would expect, and I could be proven completely wrong. So that would be interesting to know.
I would say that in our looking at how to improve the emotional social learning, that intelligence piece is phenomenal, especially as my kids are in middle school. Oh my gosh, we need to focus on that there. But that's great. But I also did want to report back too that last year in the elementary school, when we're still there, I think we had there was a day where one of the bathrooms got pretty dirty, and the kids came together to really show respect for the custodial staff, just showing, saying that, you know, they were really appreciative of all the hard work that they're doing. So I just want to also relay that even though cleanliness does come down for students reporting out, I think that students do recognize the hard work of our custodial staff. And I put that for my own kids. So I just want to do a shout out to custodial staff for the hard work.
And parents are clearly.
Yeah. Just one more piece about the site and age discrepancies, I think, from the communication piece. I think about that from the bandwidth of our educators in terms of pushing out communication to families, how just different that can be at the elementary level compared to the secondary level. And so how to tease that out in support of our educators who, the student to teacher ratio grows immensely at the secondary level, and, to try to maybe tease out what specifically our families kind of longing for. And I appreciate that we've gotten to a point that it isn't just a grade on paper, right? Working through standards-based learning, I think, provides a different type of feedback. But I'd be curious, because that's just such a broad piece, to be able to disaggregate that in support of our educators, that just, how that looks at each level and their ability to push information out does, vary by the structure of our schools. This is great to see.
The last thing I wanted to say is I hope anybody watching or anybody who hears this recognizes how important this information is. And I'm grateful for seeing the action items that come from this. But this is information that is threaded through all of our monitoring reports. Like, this information really is, it's not just a pat on the back or a we'll do better and we shelve it. This is what's driving, so much of it. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness about that, and also just the transparency on how important this data is. So thank you.
Thanks for your work on bringing this forward,
thank you.
and all the digging in and data deep diving.
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback and thoughts about showing things by grade level next year as well.
And maybe in the summary that we do of the board meetings, Marcy, to add that extra nudge for staff. I know a lot of staff members read these, so maybe keeping that encouragement for staff to do the survey too would be great.
Her VAA rep just.
Yep, I saw a nod back there too. Hey. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving along in our agenda, we'll move ahead to public comments. We'll start with Kilby Willenberg. And Kilby, you can speak there, you can come to the front.
Here's why I'd like to
Okay.
question. So, I appreciate it, as always. So just gonna give kind of a quick update on our situation with the Verona program, We're still in the same position as we were 2 weeks ago. We still don't have clarity on our kid suspension, and the target seems like it continues to move on us. So, more specifically, it was never clear what these kids did. The suspensions was like iterated last time. The school has continued to say, well, we're happy to meet with you and explain to you further what you don't understand. Feels like almost passive aggressive tone or so, but now it seems like the target has shifted, because we're being told now that now we have more information on your kid, on these kids. And you're lucky, what we've been told, that you weren't suspended even more. One family was told that they're lucky that our kids are walking the line and are walking at graduation. So it just feels like everything is constantly moving, and, time is, we have time, but, it just feels like almost like a scare tactic, and that that we're just trying to run the clock out. Because the season's almost over, which we know that. It's fine. It's also, I think it's important to note that during the investigation, you guys probably don't know this, but it's brought up that one of the kids that suspended was being bullied. And so Mr. Steiner and Mr. Cox brought that to the kids' attention, and the parents' attention, that they were there. And, they showed remorse, she showed empathy, but nothing happened to those kids that were bullying that kid that was suspended. So it was important enough to bring up during that meeting, but it wasn't important enough to do anything. And everything was coming out anyway. That kid was bullied, was hazed, fat shamed, and nothing happened. So you can imagine what that kid feels like. Whenever the administrators reached out and said, if you need to talk to us, go ahead and talk to us. We're sorry this happened. And then nothing happened. So that just feels really bad, especially for that kid. I feel really bad for that kid. And so lastly, this whole process, could have been avoided, could have been a valuable learning lesson for the kids. with the coaches, with the school. Everyone could have said, yeah, we did wrong. But no one did. We just picked out 5 kids and we took a look at it. So that's all I gotta say. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And a second comment, Joshua Kruger.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for offering us this time. And I apologize for coming in late if I caused any disruption. I'll be brief. I'll try not to be redundant. There'll be a little bit of crossover, but I just want to share how disappointed and impactful this has been to a number of these kids. And we're really disappointed in the process. You know, this isn't a vendetta against any specific person. We truly believe, I think I can speak on behalf, of all the families, from coaches on up, we think these are all good people trying to do the right thing. Our issue is more with the process. We didn't feel like there was a whole lot of clarity or transparency. We felt like the appeal system, you know, wasn't really an appeal. It was kind of, things were levied against them, decisions were made. It was kind of detective, judge, jury, all the same kind of people. It just didn't really feel like a truly fair or equitable process for some of the kids who are powerless and in a situation where they're generally pretty helpless to defend themselves. We felt like the system kind of came down with heavy hands without really offering a whole lot of clarity to what the specifics were. And I don't want to get into any of those specifics. It's not really about that. It's more about the process itself and the impact it had on the 5 kids. And some of the stuff was happening to them over the last few years and it wasn't really accounted for. I didn't feel like there's a lot of retroactive kind of examination of that, or some of the experiences some of these other kids have had as far as ever getting into trouble or anything like that. You know, some of these kids, including mine, have never really been in any significant trouble at all. And probably most important was to kind of reiterate what Kilby said was, I feel like there's a really valuable learning opportunity here that was missed. And instead of trying to do something to enrich the entire program, all of them, for the betterment of all kids, including the 5, that opportunity was missed. Instead, the book was thrown at them without really any chance for them to truly defend themselves or, you know, offer an alternative version of events. It kind of felt like, and this could be discussed in another place, but the timeline did suggest that their minds were made up long before the appeal process. And that felt really, really unfair. And it kind of felt like they weren't part of the power dynamics. And because of that, the justice was kind of, they picked and chose who was going to be, you know, held accountable. And sure enough, none of the supposed adults in the room were held accountable at all, who were in the locker room, on the bus when these supposed events took place. And that's a real problem. And it just kind of felt like the kids, the 5 came away from this with a feeling the lesson they learned is, well, if you're not in the power dynamics, they can be kind of, you know, used against you, and they'll kind of pick and choose who's going to see or not see justice. And it just felt very unfair. And for a young kid who's never been in any trouble, it just felt like there should have been some other measures there to kind of account for that. But again, it was about the learning lesson I think that was missed that could have really enriched the program. Instead, it kind of deficited the whole program and every kid on it. And, you know, it just wasn't good for any of them. And I just feel like that's really unfortunate. And we were left with very few avenues left. And that's why we're here. This is one of the few avenues we have. And some families, including myself, have been exploring all avenues, including talking with you guys. And we appreciate your time. And one of the other ones, you know, of course, we've had to consult with attorneys, which is super unfortunate. And it's been really hard on me, on my son. And it just felt like there should have been a more amicable resolution to this instead of just crucifying the kids and having their sports career effectively brought to a screeching halt, especially when there wasn't really any major past history and there was no accounting for all the stuff that had happened to them over the last 3 years, which was exponentially worse. No accounting for that. So that also felt just very unjust. And, you know, we've got a kid at home that he's lost all animation and, you know, the forces that generally generate his happiness are gone. So it's been pretty tough. So I'll just leave it at that, and thank you guys again for your time.
Thank you as well for yours. Thanks. All right, moving through to board action. We are monitoring OE7 this evening, asset protection. Thanks in advance of John being our note taker this evening, and thanks in advance to Chad, who's joining us at the table for some dialogue around evidence related to OE7.
Thank you. Dr. C, I think we just have a slide if you want to click her forward.
I don't have the quick, oh, I do have the clicker.
One slide, but 133 pages of evidence. Am I
Yeah,
remembering that correctly? 130
It's
in
a
one
lot.
document, and then
It's
the,
a lot.
yeah.
and maybe we go one more. Yeah, so there is certainly a lot of evidence. I do think this is similar to OE5, another one of the policies that this district inherited related to board governance that potentially the board hearing about this work on an annual basis, if we were doing policy governance, might not happen. You would assume on an annual basis that we're renewing our insurance policies, we have cyber insurance and a cyber attack plan and all of the other things that help us take care of making sure we're not, the administrative team is not placing the district at undue risk. Without OE7, we don't get to have a brief rinse and repeat every year. The board can see all of the evidence, 133 pages of it, that we're doing this work. So we certainly didn't go similar to OE5. I don't think it's going to be very fruitful for us to go through 15 slides on the fact that we built systems to make sure that this happens. I believe the evidence we provided does show that. I'm certainly here to answer questions if the board has any specific questions about OE7. But again, the big idea is we're protecting the stuff that we own, and we're protecting the people we've got. And we're doing that a lot of times through verifying it through an auditing process or proving to the board that we've got the appropriate insurance to make sure the assets we've got are protected. So here to answer questions.
If I quickly, before we transition to, and thanks for the opening up, Chad, but I just want to really take a step deeper into the words that Chad was saying around the focus. You know, OE5 does this, OE7 that we're talking about today does this, and this leadership of the board has really put us in a space where accountability and those expectations for accountability are not a bad word. There's just an expectation, and it just kind of understanding and looking at other spaces. These are often questions that aren't asked, and now we are in a space where the board is very intentionally ensuring, okay, we know this is supposed to happen. Give us the 110 pieces of evidence that is, and that's fine.
It's all, Michael's the main guy who runs all the insurance.
Yeah.
Amazing operations manager who works under me. But the second that policy's done, it's PDF, and he knows that that's going to end up in evidence a year from now. So it's almost trained our district employees in some regards to compile evidence through the year on work that you expect all of us to do. Yep.
So just a long way of saying thank you for asking the right questions, and that's because it really puts us in the mindset of how to set up appropriate systems. And I'm not sure that we could promise that they would be that way if the board had not set this up in a way that we are monitoring with this fidelity.
I was actually going to flip that and say thank you, because we didn't, you've answered questions that we probably should have asked directly and wouldn't even know to do. You know, if somebody came up to me and just asked, you know, does the district have a cybersecurity, you know, incident response plan? I actually wouldn't have been able to say yes in years past. And now it's like, well, here it is, and here's the link to it. So, you know, these are the types of questions that the board should know. And unless you're steeped in this type of work, these aren't the conversations that boards normally have. And I am so grateful that we have the opportunity to have the insight into these types of things. I mean, this is very detailed information that somebody in the district, some community member is interested. Are you tracking this type of information? And yes, this is where it is. And we asked the big question, and the fact that you drilled down to it in such granular fashion really, I think, again, heightens the trust because of the transparency. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like we should also all have these for like our own like homes, like,
Absolutely.
are we doing all of this?
Yeah.
So,
OE7 for your personal.
for my life,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
We need
Right.
updated this.
The credit card expires and all of a sudden you're not paying homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
Unless tax.
Annual check-in.
Yeah.
So, thank you. And thank you to Michael for having to put all the.
It's great.
Yeah, this is great. Appreciate this. It's a lot, 134 pages is a lot to go through. I've tried my best and I was like, sorry. But this is very comprehensive, it's amazing. I was just thinking a couple of things. So in regards to cybersecurity, because it's a huge liability, have you noticed a super large increase in premiums?
Yeah.
Insurance, given that it's gotten so much worse.
If Jason was here, he could go into immense detail. I can tell you a few things that we've put in place that have helped us keep our rates in check by district standards. So we have super annoying, like 15-character passwords with the ones you love to try to remember that are actually reset on an annual basis. And when Jason put both the added extension related to our password, and we're required to do dual authentication at least once a week on our devices. So even this morning, Dr. C maybe had the same thing. Pop it open on a Monday morning, go, and I've got 3 minutes of work to make sure Chad Weezy is signing in to his district issued device. That fail-safe is in place in lots of other places. And school districts were actually being taken off of cyber insurance plans because they didn't go through with some of those additional fail-safes. We also work with outside consultants on an annual basis to kind of do an audit of our own cybersecurity. And we've got even this week, another Go Phishing campaign, pardon the pun, with the PH phishing, where we keep analytics around staff members that kind of get duped by emails that sneak past our firewall. So our team is, I think, I'd put them up against anybody else in a district of our size. It's never perfect. We had one 2 weeks ago that somebody got through, managed to get somebody to dual authenticate. We had fail safes in place that it got tagged. We shut down that Google account, did all the back end stuff necessary to make sure it was shut down. So it's never going to be perfect. I think it's only going to get harder. I think we're just on the first year of AI. What is this stuff going to look like a few years from now? But I do feel like many of the fail safes we have put in place have served us well, and the plans we've got on the back end.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my husband is cybersecurity, and I'm the weakest link in the family. So just FYI. I'll try not to be that way in the district. But, do you have trainings as well for staff, just in regards to, you said you do the simulated fishing attempt.
Fishing, yeah.
He did one called Fish Friday. Wisconsin. Anyways, do you do regular trainings for or attempted other pieces around?
There is a monthly newsletter that now is incorporated into our staff newsletter, that there is not one that goes by that doesn't have some sort of cybersecurity tip. After we're done with our Gone Fishing campaign, Jason will send out an all-staff email on what the hit rate was and kind of what the scam was. We are almost always training to have a watchful eye to do it. We had Dr. C impersonated, it seems like once a week. But we had a bigger one a couple of weeks ago, and when that's going on, Jason will send out timely emails on what they're attempting to do, what we did to stop it. So I do feel it's not going to be perfect, but as long as we can continue to try to make it on top of mind for our staff, I think we're better than most when it comes to this stuff.
And we're starting to get into, like Chad, my name gets used a lot in cyber situations or scams. We notice that it often follows a news release. So whether it's Verona Press, or if there's anything local that happens that has either our district or my name attached to it, you can almost bet there'll be a scam attempt attached to it within 2 or 3 days after that comes out.
Do we do anything to inform our community of what types of information coming from us is authentic in case, you know,
Yeah, actually, the answer is no yet until, well, that was just, I said yeah because it was a topic that we just discussed at our superintendents for Dane County, because we were all thinking about how are we having, like whether it's watermarks or something that shows that this is officially a letter from the Verona Area School District, or officially a letter from myself, and trying to figure out how to build it in a way that can't be replicated, which is, you know, really hard to do, but that's the step that we're at in that process, recognizing that is a factor. Like that, you know, we don't want a letter on letterhead that says, I said this with my signature on it, you know.
well, I think going back to with our
Yeah.
survey,
Yeah.
which is, you know, if we do send, you know, email links, how can we verify the, you know, the trust for the community?
Correct.
Which I think, you know, everything always looks very professionally done. But as you said, as AI improves, you know, it's moving. Either click on everything or nothing. That's my
Right, and if that's
go-to.
then related to the survey responses, right? People that are maybe just, I'm not gonna click on things that I absolutely don't feel confident.
I email Jason, like, is this real? Everybody does. It's great. Everyone
Yeah.
does it because he gets back pretty quickly. Yep, he is very wired and he's awesome, yes.
Well, then also the multiple platforms we have for communication with our families, right? So I think that there's so many opportunities for learning and for additional security.
Do we use multi-year authentication for everything in district?
Well, we've got something called single sign-on that ties back to your Google account. So there's only one pipe in to the single sign-on, kind of through our firewall. And then the fact that we have to dual authenticate to get into Google is kind of our fail-safe to actually make sure that single sign-on is far more secure for something like PowerSchool than having individual passwords for PowerSchool that don't require dual authentication. So you sign into PowerSchool through your Gmail account.
Right. Add one last quick wondering.
Yeah.
With the potential increase in maybe third-party uses of facilities, fields that we may or may not build, or current fields, is there anything that we need to think about as a board as far as like any liabilities that might exist? Because I know, you know, we have to trust that the third party has proper insurance, and there's a reporting process probably around that. Is there anything that we should know or questions that we're not asking about any potential third party liabilities of usage of our facilities?
I don't believe that level of detail exists in OE7 as far as providing annual evidence. Certainly the board can rewrite that policy to ask for it. You had a chance to meet Janine tonight, so she's in charge of all of our facility rentals and any outside renter, if depending on the type of organization that's coming in to use our space, has to provide proof of insurance. So that's one of Janine's check boxes before you get a permit. Yep, she's got a big laundry list of stuff that she goes through, and that's one of the things that they have to provide.
Thank you.
As always, I appreciate the executive summary. I think it's a great place for just anyone to land and get a sense of what may be ahead within the report. And just kind of echoing what Meredith said, I think this helps inform me as a board member, thanks to the strength of you and your team. I know you've mentioned a few individuals, but really want to lift up the people that are underneath this work every day, day in and day out, and for the report. That I feel like you and your team are continually educating me for who might be the next people if I'm still serving on the board, to ensure that I continue to know the right questions to ask. So I know the policy is driven by us, but the work that you all are doing is just this cyclical way of partnering that I'm super appreciative of.
So just in following up some of the questioning here about third-party insurance, I just wanted to ask a general question. So just to go back, I think this policy, more than some others, is one that is definitely developed in partnership with the administration, because as elected officials, we don't always know what type of questions or how deep we need to ask questions around this sort of thing to make sure that we're not just covering our butts, but that we're, you know, good governance and all. So I have some specific questions that kind of came out of the conversation so far. Do we need to evaluate the policy language here to more clearly enumerate the different types of insurance? Because, for example, we've talked a lot about cybersecurity insurance. It's not explicitly mentioned in the board's policies, which is more broadly around casualty and liability insurance. Do we need to have policy language that specifies that when people rent our facilities, they have to provide proof of insurance, which I understand is a best practice and is happening anyway, but do we need to codify that in policy language? And then separate from those conversations, the one that I kind of had on my own is our policy language around preventative maintenance as clear and concise as it should be about not just doing the preventative maintenance, but maintaining replacement schedules that are economically efficient for the district and using language like that in our policy. So that would be, I don't know that I'm comfortable as a board taking on, like, do we need to push that language out there ourselves? But I think starting this conversation in public, like, because this is a very jointly developed policy, even though the board owns it. Those would be my questions for maybe future consideration to come back and say, maybe we should look at the policy language for these three types of things. That's my question that doesn't need a response.
Kind of marry in with the administrative rules that exist though.
Yeah, that's what I was, especially with the second one, the administrative rules cover significant portions of it. So I think I would, to your point, cross-reference, just a good practice for us to cross-reference our administrative rules at the same time as a policy monitoring report to ensure that we're covered in those nuanced areas as well.
And on the preventative maintenance front, I think some of that can start to dovetail into OE12 related to long-range facilities planning. So I think primarily OE7 is taking care of and protecting the stuff you own. And when things are past their useful life, and it's a partnership between the board and the administration to make sure that we've got budget that we should have to do, long-term maintenance projects to take care of things that have exceeded that useful life. And the board should be informed on an annual basis kind of how we're doing relative to that long-term maintenance. And you are per OE12.
And there currently is, I think I remember this from previous reports, all assets are recorded.
Yeah, all major assets actually are required to be
Was it over
reported
1,000?
to DPI. I haven't seen the threshold, actually could be $500. But we have a state accounting system that any stuff we buy, we're actually required to inventory on an annual basis. Some of it actually gets depreciated and amortized through something called Fund 41. If we spend Fund 41, we have to report what we spend it on. So there's actually a couple fail-safes in place as far as our accounting goes. The annual audit also makes sure that we're inventorying assets we purchase. Thank you. Yep.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? Okay, then I would accept a motion to accept the report as meeting expectations if someone is so called to do so. Thank you, Meredith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. All those in favor of approving OE7 Asset Protection Monitoring Report as meeting expectations signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? Report is approved as meeting expectations.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Chad, and again,
Thanks, Chad.
extended gratitude to the team.
You bet.
All right, moving on to board updates. Any board updates? I don't think I have any either. We'll let that for a good wait time moment to just ensure that I don't distract from anyone's thinking.
I just wanted to make a personal statement around recognizing, I know I talk a lot about equity inclusion and we all talk about our equity framework so much, and that's one of the things that just really has always, that's what inspired me to come on this board, was to really see that come alive and make sure that it is alive. But it does push me to recognize the time and place that we're in politically right now, that I know that some families do feel additional threats and just being out of community. I know that I carry my passport with me as being a Latino man, and I don't always feel safe in community, but I want to just make the statement that we value our Latino and our immigrant and refugee communities. They're important parts of our community, and we recognize if you're feeling that sense of stress, additional stress of just being a part of the larger community, but just wanted you to feel valued and respected and important, and that we will continue to look at our, I'll be committed to looking at how we look at our equity framework and making sure that you continue to be safe within our community. So I just wanted to say that because it's important, and I know that folks are feeling that very deeply right now. And I was out door knocking for a candidate running for office, and I know one of my Latino constituents in the neighborhood did not come to the door, and I knew that they were there, and I just left stuff there because I knew that they did not feel safe. So I just want to, I think it's important to recognize that. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. All right, looking down to then our board consent agenda. Please elevate any questions you have. A couple of added minutes from our closed session last week. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, board's consent agenda is approved. Our future dates are basically all just the board meetings that we have up until and right after spring break, and then the spring election, of course, staying on the calendar. So thanks for that reminder, even Christopher, with your comment before that. And then I would propose that we adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.85 sub 1 sub C to consider compensation or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to consider the compensation and performance of the superintendent. We will move to adjourn to closed session with a roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Meredith? Aye. Christopher?
Aye.
Juan Carlos?
Hey.
Aye, and aye as well. We are adjourned to closed session. We'll take just a brief recess.